At 9:14 a.m. GMT, satellites lost contact with the sun. Cameras looking into space caught something so vast, so overwhelming that even the most experienced NASA technicians froze in disbelief. Above Earth, the sky was not blue anymore. It was black and silver. Something moved in that darkness, something alive. At first, people thought it was an eclipse, but the shape was wrong. This was not the clean circle of the moon passing in front of the sun. This was jagged, uneven, massive. Then the patterns emerge: lines, angles, silhouettes of metal beasts floating high in the atmosphere. Billions of them. The ships came in every size imaginable. Some were as large as mountain ranges, blocking entire regions from daylight. Others were needle-thin darts, glinting like tiny stars. They moved with impossible precision. No smoke, no noise, just an eerie hum that seemed to vibrate inside human bones. Within minutes, every news station in the world cut their regular programs. In Tokyo, morning talk shows froze mid-sentence. In London, political debates dissolved into pure panic. CNN's anchor stared into the camera, her voice trembling. We estimate 5 billion extraterrestrial beings are entering our atmosphere. This is not a drill. In Times Square, New York, thousands of people tilted their heads back to see the sky, mouths open. Tourists forgot their cameras. Street vendors stopped mid-sale. Even car horns fell silent. Then came the broadcast. It arrived without warning. No signal towers were involved. Phones, radios, televisions, and even car dashboards suddenly lit up with a single image: a colossal alien figure. Its face hidden behind a mirrored mask, eyes glowing with cold blue light. Behind it, an alien. Councils sat on high black thrones. The voice was deep and calm, like someone reading from a script they had spoken countless times before. This world will now belong to the Kareth Dominion. Resistance is useless. Your governments will surrender all authority. Resources will be cataloged and redistributed. Your survival will depend on cooperation. The words were translated instantly into every language on Earth. In Washington, military leaders huddled in the Pentagon's war room. Generals exchanged tense looks. The president's security advisor leaned toward the screen, whispering, 5 billion. That's more than the entire population of Earth. In Moscow, a Russian Air Force commander slammed his fist on the table. We cannot fight that many. Even if each ship carried only 10 soldiers, we are still outnumbered. In Beijing, the defense minister barked orders for missile batteries to prepare, but the radar screens told the truth. The alien ships were everywhere. No matter where you fired, you would hit one. In London, the Prime Minister sat pale and silent, gripping a pen that never moved across the page in front of her. The Kareth ships began moving into formation. In every city, the same eerie sight unfolded. Rows upon rows of alien craft hovered, at fixed points blocking the sun, casting long, cold shadows over streets and parks. It was like being inside a cage made of steel and light. People began screaming. Some ran to their cars. Others fell to their knees praying. Children clung to their parents, asking questions no one could answer. Then the second wave of the invasion began, not with weapons, but with silence. One by one, power grids failed. Entire neighborhoods plunged into darkness. Air conditioning units died. Elevators froze between floors. Traffic lights flickered once, then went black. Cell phones showed no service. Television screens turned to static. In hospitals, heart monitors and ventilators stopped. Doctors shouted for backup generators, but even those failed. In police stations, officers grabbed radios dead. In military command centers, encrypted satellite links collapsed. It was not just technology failing, it was being switched off. The Kareth were not jamming signals. They were controlling them. On the streets of Paris, soldiers in armored vehicles, prepared to defend the city. But without communications, they had no orders, no coordination. In Sydney, people watched as the alien ships simply hovered overhead, their surfaces shimmering like liquid metal, giving off no heat, no exhaust. That was the strangest part. They had shut the world down, but they had not fired a single shot. Hours passed. No demands were repeated. No movement came from the hovering fleets. In the Pentagon Situation Room, one general leaned forward, speaking in a whisper to the president. Why haven't they attacked yet? No one had an answer. Across the world, conspiracy theories bloomed instantly. Some said the Kareth were studying Earth before making their final move. Others claimed they were waiting for something, another signal, another fleet. In a cramped apartment in Lagos, a group of university students huddled around a battery-powered radio, trying to catch any scraps of information from stations still broadcasting. They heard only fragments. Power down. Stay indoors. Unknown intent. In the skies above, the alien formation did not break. They floated like a wall between Earth and the sun, perfectly still as though time had stopped. But deep inside the largest ship, the flagship that loomed over the Pacific Ocean, a council of Kareth leaders watched Earth closely. Their masked faces revealed nothing, but their voices in their own language were tense. This world is different, one said. Too much noise in the atmosphere. There's too much resistance in the air. This will not be easy, they had come expecting. To crush a weak, divided species. But something about this planet was already making them uneasy. Far below, humans could only stare upward, hearts pounding. The invasion had begun, but no one knew when or if the first strike would come. And then, as if to remind everyone who controlled the planet now, the alien voice returned, calm and cold. On every dead screen, do not resist. We are already here. The signal cut. The world was now silent. Yet in that silence, fear began to turn into something else. Questions. Why had 5 billion warriors come to Earth? And why were they waiting? That question hung in the air like the ships themselves, heavy and unmoving. The first day of the Kareth occupation was not a day of battle. It was a day of shadows. In those shadows, the fate of the planet waited to be decided. The second day began with a sunrise no one could see. The alien ships still blocked the sky, a metallic ceiling stretching from horizon to horizon. Cities remained in darkness, not because of night, but because the Kareth had taken the sun away. In New York, emergency sirens wailed in the distance, though no one could tell who was running them. With the power grid dead and communications cut, every city felt like an island cut off, alone. People whispered in the streets. They kept glancing upward, waiting for the sound of weapons, waiting for destruction to begin, but the ships still hovered, unmoving. In the Pentagon, the war room was lit only by backup lighting. Paper maps covered the tables, a relic from an earlier age when battles weren't fought through satellites. The president sat at the head of the table, surrounded by generals and intelligence officers. No movement from the Kareth since last night, an admiral reported. They've got us locked down, but they're not engaging. They've already won, another general muttered. They don't need to engage. But that theory didn't sit right with everyone. In Beijing, a small group of military scientists worked in an underground lab, using equipment shielded from electromagnetic interference. Dr. Wei, the lead scientist, had been monitoring strange fluctuations in the alien ship's positioning. They are not as static as they appear, she told her colleagues. Every few hours they adjust slightly. It's precise, coordinated, like they're waiting for something. Meanwhile, on the streets of Lagos, that group of university students who had been huddled around a battery-powered radio the day before had decided to act. Without internet or cell service, they used old amateur radio equipment to send out a simple message in English: "This is Earth. We do not surrender." It was a desperate act, a signal that probably wouldn't travel more than a few hundred miles. But in a dead world, even a whisper felt like a roar. That whisper didn't go unheard. On the Kareth flagship, deep in its shimmering core, alien translators intercepted the signal instantly. A tall figure, draped in black and silver armor, tilted his head as the translation scrolled across a glowing panel. "They speak already," the figure said. "They have not broken." Another Kareth stepped forward. "It is irrelevant. resistance is useless. Their infrastructure is gone. They will collapse within days. But the commander of the fleet, his name untranslatable to human tongues, was less certain. No, something in them resists without weapons. This species does not fear as easily. As others, back on Earth, rumors began to spread. In London, survivors whispered that they had seen one of the smaller Careth ships land in the countryside, waiting for it to take off again minutes later. No explosions, no battles, no sign of why it had come down. In Moscow, military scouts reported hearing strange, high-pitched sounds in the night-like transmissions, but coming from the ships themselves. In Rio de Janeiro, fishermen claimed the oceans were different now. The fish are gone, one man told a small crowd at the docks. Something is happening in the water. With every passing hour, humans began to realize something terrifying, that Careth weren't just here for land or power. They were watching the entire planet, as if cataloging it piece by piece. And then it happened. The third day after the Careth arrival began with silence, not the normal kind, but the kind that feels heavy, like the air itself is holding its breath. All over the planet, people avoided going outside. Those who did kept their eyes low, as if looking up at the sky might draw the attention of the ships. But in a dusty mining town in Western Australia, something happened that would change everything. At 9:12 a.m. local time, one of the smaller Careth vessels broke formation and descended rapidly. Witnesses described it as like a shadow falling. From the clouds, it made no sound, no thrusters, no heat. It hovered just above the red desert ground. Then, without warning, a beam of pale blue light swept across the town's single main street. When the light vanished, so did a man. His name was Thomas Rourke, 42 years old, a miner, and a father of two. One moment he was standing outside the general store talking to a neighbor. The next, he was gone, as if erased from reality. The neighbor swore there was no pain, no scream, just light, and then nothing. News of the disappearance spread faster than anything else since the invasion. Even without the internet, word traveled by shortwave radios, handwritten notes carried by motorbike messengers, and the few remaining news anchors broadcasting from underground studios. By the time the story reached Washington, Moscow, and Beijing, panic was already starting, said Dr. Wei, staring at intercepted alien signals in her Beijing bunker. This is their first human extraction. In the Pentagon, a junior intelligence officer brought forward something strange, old, classified reports from 20 years earlier describing unexplained disappearances across rural Australia, South America, and parts of Africa. The files included grainy satellite photos, small unknown craft hovering low, and people vanishing without trace. "Are you saying they've been here before?" the president asked. The officer didn't answer. He didn't have to. Meanwhile, somewhere far above the earth, Thomas Rourke was alive, but not on solid ground. He awoke inside a chambermaid of shifting silver walls, his body weightless. He could breathe, but the air felt thick, almost alive. Shapes moved beyond the walls, their silhouettes alien and insect-like, but disturbingly graceful. A voice not spoken, but inside his mind said in perfect English, "You are not prey. You are a question." Thomas tried to shout, but his voice dissolved into silence. The voice came again. "You are resistant." Why? Back on Earth? The Careth ships began a slow, synchronized shift in formation. Billions of them tilted slightly, as if responding to a silent command. In Rio, fishermen on the coast saw the ocean churn violently for no reason. In Siberia, soldiers stationed in remote outposts reported seeing strange lights beneath the ice. In Kenya, a group of rangers claimed entire herds of animals had vanished overnight. And then, at 3:45 p.m. Eastern Time, the skies over Washington glowed. One of the massive Careth capital ships descended lower than ever before, so low that its underbelly blotted out the entire horizon. Every camera still running pointed upward. The remaining news networks began streaming live again, even on dying batteries, because something was about to happen. The capital ship opened. From its belly, a single column of light fell to the ground in front of the White House. When it faded, something stood there. It wasn't human. It was tall, with silver-black armor that shifted like liquid and a face hidden behind a mask of crystal. And in its long, clawed hand was Thomas Rourke. He was alive. Barely. The alien looked toward the cameras, as if it knew the world was watching, and in a deep, resonating voice said, "This one will tell you what is coming." Then, without another word, both the alien and Thomas vanished in a flash of blue light. Every government, every military commander, every survivor on Earth now had the same sickening realization. The Careth had just sent a message. For 2 full days, the world saw nothing of Thomas Rourke. Governments scrambled, guessing at what the Careth had meant by making him tell what is coming. Was he being tortured? Was he already dead? Then on the morning of the 3rd day, a feed appeared on every surviving broadcast system, radio frequency, and working monitor even, on devices that were completely powered off. The image was grainy, but unmistakable. Thomas Rourke, sitting in what looked like a cold steel room. His eyes were sunken, his skin pale, and his breathing shallow. He didn't look at the camera at first. When he finally did, his voice was quiet but steady. "They've been here before for centuries." That one sentence froze the entire planet. "They took people," Thomas continued. "Not just here, everywhere. Soldiers, scientists, leaders, farmers, children. They took them and they tested them." His words came in bursts, as if speaking cost him energy. "They were looking for something in us, a trait, a pattern, something rare." The camera angle shifted slightly. In the background, behind a wall of alien glass, shadowy shapes moved. They were large, insect-like creatures with long limbs and eyes that reflected light like water. "They call it resistance," Thomas said. "Not against weapons, against them." In hidden bunkers across the globe, intelligence officers and scientists leaned forward, scribbling notes. "They've conquered thousands of worlds, billions of species, every time they break them in days. But with humans, something happens. A small number of us don't break. We push back, and they don't understand why." Suddenly, the feed shook as if something had slammed against the wall behind him. The sound that followed was deep, metallic, and angry. Thomas's eyes darted to the side, but he kept speaking faster. "They thought taking Earth would be simple. They thought they could shut down our world and watch it fall apart. But the ones they've taken before, they came back changed. Stronger, smarter, harder to control." His voice dropped to a whisper. "They're afraid of us. Before anyone could process that, the feed distorted. Static ripped through the picture. Through the glitching image, something else appeared. An alien face, all sharp lines and burning yellow eyes. A deep alien voice rumbled over Thomas's words. "He will not speak again." The image vanished. Every screen went black. The Pentagon's war room. The president turned to his generals. "Get me everyone we've ever lost to an unexplained disappearance." Names, files, locations. Now, across the world, a few survivors began to piece it together. The Careth didn't just come to take. They came to stop something from happening. Something only humans could do, and whatever it was. Thomas had just told the world enough to start looking for it. The blackout after Thomas Rourke's broadcast lasted only 40 minutes, but in that short time, something shifted. Every intelligence agency, every special forces unit, every off-the-books black site suddenly had the same mission. Find the missing. It began in whispers. A list of names started moving through encrypted channels. Soldiers who had disappeared in Afghanistan without explanation. Sailors lost at sea in perfect weather. Scientists who had simply walked out of labs and never returned. The list grew longer by the hour, hundreds, then thousands. By nightfall, it was clear these were people the Careth had taken long before their ships filled the sky. Underground bunkers flickered to life. Commanders dusted off decades-old contingency plans meant for a hostile extraterrestrial occupation. Most had thought those plans were fiction. Not anymore. In a dim operations room beneath Cheyenne Mountain, Colonel Marissa Vega studied a map dotted with red markers. These are confirmed returnees, she said to her small team. People who vanished and then came back? Different. Analyst leaned forward. Different how? They're stronger, faster. Their reflexes are impossible, Vega replied. And there's something else, they can sense the Kareth before they see them. The room went silent. Outside, the mountain hummed with generators and quiet fear. In London, MI6 agents intercepted a lone figure walking along the Thames at midnight, a woman with a military posture and eyes that seemed to track movement no one else could see. When they confronted her, she simply said, "It's starting." Again, meanwhile, the Kareth grew restless. Over Earth's largest cities, their ships drifted lower. They didn't fire, but the sound they made, a low, thrumming pulse, made buildings vibrate and animals scatter. In Tokyo, residents claimed to see strange lights weaving between the alien ships. Some swore they were human-shaped. The footage was shaky, but in frame after frame, a shadowy figure could be seen moving in ways no ordinary person could. Colonel Vega's team caught a break 2 days later. A distress signal, barely strong enough to register, came from deep in the Nevada desert. A retrieval team flew out under the cover of darkness. They found a man standing alone in the sand, wearing torn combat gear from the Gulf War, gear that looked like it had been buried for decades. When they asked his name, he smiled faintly. "Sergeant Harris, you been waiting for me?" Harris spoke little, but every word mattered. "The Kareth made a mistake," he told Vega later. "They think they can keep us caged. They don't know we've already escaped in ways they can't see." In the skies above, the alien fleet began shifting formation. For the first time since their arrival, their ships turned away from each other, as if searching for something. On the ground, and in a hidden facility somewhere under the Rockies, 3 returnees stood in a circle, their eyes glowing faintly in the dark. One of them whispered, "They're hunting us." "Good, that means they're afraid." Move in Humanity's counterstrike was about to begin. The Kareth made their move at dawn. In New York City, people woke to a strange silence. No car horns, no trains, no chatter in the streets. Then came the sound, a deep, bone-vibrating hum rolling across the skyline. From between the Kareth motherships, smaller craft dropped like steel raindrops, each one shaped like a jagged spear. They moved with terrifying precision, slamming into rooftops, parks, and intersections. Inside each craft, hunter drones unfolded, 6-legged, faceless, and glowing with cold blue light. Their purpose was clear: locate the returnees and bring them in alive. But the aliens weren't the only ones ready. In a parking garage beneath Manhattan, Sergeant Harris crouched beside 2 other returnees, scanning the streets through a cracked windshield. "They're sweeping in a spiral pattern," he said, his voice steady. "That gives us a 10-minute window to move before they close in." The others nodded. One of them, a woman named Yara, flexed her hands, her skin faintly pulsing, as if energy flowed just beneath the surface. 10 minutes is enough. Above them, a drone's shadow swept past. Harris counted to 3, then the team slipped into the open. That's when the trap sprung, not theirs, but the Kareth's. 4 drones pivoted midair, their metal limbs unfolding into weapons. The returnees scattered, moving faster than human eyes could follow. Bullets and energy blasts tore through walls, sending chunks of concrete into the air. From a rooftop across the street, Colonel Vega watched the chaos through binoculars. Her earpiece crackled with Harris's voice. "We've been made." "Plan B confirmed," Vega replied. "Activate the net." 3 blocks away, a row of unremarkable delivery trucks powered up, but these weren't ordinary vehicles. Hidden panels slid open, revealing pulse emitters designed to scramble Kareth drone sensors. The moment they fired, the drones froze. Mid-movement, their glowing eyes flickering like dying embers. Yara didn't hesitate. She leaped forward, delivering a single strike to each drone's core. They collapsed instantly. Crowds of civilians, watching from behind barricades, erupted in stunned cheers. For the first time since the invasion began, they had seen the enemy fall. But the Kareth weren't retreating. High above, The motherships shifted position, their thrumming pulse deepening into something more like a growl. Every screen in Times Square flickered to life, showing the same alien figure in silver armor. Its voice was low and steady. Earth's defiance will be crushed. Those who hide the marked will share their fate. Viga's jaw tightened. She turned to her comms officer. Send the footage to every network. Let the world see what just happened. By nightfall, the video of the returnees destroying the drones had gone viral. Even in places where the Kareth had cut the net, people found ways to share it anyway. In secret shelters, resistance cells began to whisper the same thing. The Kareth can bleed. Far above, inside the flagship, the alien commander watched the footage again in silence. Then, without turning to his advisors, he said, "They've awakened the wrong kind of prey." And somewhere deep underground, Sergeant Lee Harris looked at Viga and said, "Now they'll come harder. And when they do, we'll be ready."